day Germany lost World War. It was supposed to be the day Germany's enemies broke, the moment the Reich would finally prove its dominance. Instead, it became the day everything unraveled. Imagine this. Young soldiers barely 20 years old, standing in mud-soaked trenches, clutching their rifles as the ground trembled beneath them. The sky above was choked with smoke, the air reeked of cordite and blood, and whispers spread through the ranks that this would be their last stand. On this day, over 100,000 German soldiers faced annihilation, and for many survival wasn't even a possibility. Entire divisions vanished, swallowed by the tide of war. Historians call it the turning point. The cursed day when Germany's march across Europe came crashing down in blood and ruin. But behind the statistics lies something far darker, the sheer hopelessness of men forced into an unwinnable fight. Orders kept coming, but ammunition ran dry. The enemy's artillery screamed from every direction, and those who tried to flee? Few ever returned. This wasn't just a defeat. It was the day Germany realized it could no longer win. The day hope turned into ashes. So how did the mightiest army in Europe lose it all in a single, unforgettable moment? And why does this day still echo as one of the darkest chapters in military history? The story begins on the icy Eastern Front in 1943, in the shattered city of Stalingrad. For months, German forces had clawed their way through rubble and ruin, convinced they could crush Soviet resistance. What started as an ambitious offensive soon transformed into a nightmare. Temperatures plummeted to -30 degrees, weapons froze in soldiers' hands, and frostbite claimed more lives than bullets. The German Sixth Army, once considered unstoppable, found itself encircled by over 1 million Soviet troops. Cut off from supplies, the soldiers depended on Luftwaffe airdrops that rarely arrived. Hunger gnawed at their stomachs. Horses were slaughtered for meat. Men burned books, doors, and even furniture just to survive the night. These weren't elite veterans anymore. Many were teenagers drafted into service. Farm boys ripped from their villages. Clerks who had never held a rifle. Their commanders promised glory. Instead, they found despair. Letters written home reveal their true state of mind. "We are already ghosts. Mother, if I don't return, know that I died in hell." Foreshadowing signs of disaster were everywhere. Ammunition stocks dwindled. Soviet tanks rolled closer each day. And still, Hitler demanded that the city be held to the last bullet. The truth? There weren't enough bullets left. By January 1943, the Sixth Army's fate was sealed. Soldiers began whispering about the cursed day to come, the day when surrender would no longer be a choice, but an unavoidable destiny. The tension escalated with every passing hour. German divisions fought tooth and nail, but their weapons were useless against endless Soviet reinforcements. The once proud Luftwaffe, promised as their lifeline, could barely deliver a fraction of the food and ammunition needed. The imbalance was staggering. On one side, exhausted, starving men with frozen rifles. On the other, Soviet forces armed with fresh tanks, artillery, and the will to reclaim their land. Desperation gripped the soldiers. Many had not eaten in days, surviving on frozen scraps of bread or soup made from melted snow. Their eyes were hollow, their bodies frail. But what haunted them most wasn't hunger. It was the silence of comrades who never came back. Night after night, the Soviets shelled the city, reducing it to dust. Buildings collapsed. Fires raged. The ground itself seemed cursed. And in that cursed city, men broke down in tears, clutching their rifles, whispering prayers that went unanswered. By mid-January, entire regiments had ceased to exist. "Only 20 of us remain," one soldier scribbled in his diary. "The rest are gone." Every street became a graveyard. Every frozen alley reeked of death. And yet the orders remained the same: hold the city at all costs. What came next would be worse than anything they had endured before. On February 2nd, 1943, the nightmare reached its breaking point. The Soviets unleashed their final assault, pounding the city with relentless artillery. German soldiers huddled in basements and ruined factories, trembling as the walls shook around them. Some clutched their rifles with no ammunition. Others simply stared, hollow-eyed, too weak to fight. The surrender was inevitable. General Paulus, once Hitler's golden commander, finally laid down his arms. Over 91,000 German soldiers were taken prisoner. But this was no victory for them. It was a death sentence. Crammed into makeshift camps, starved and diseased, only a fraction would survive. Of the 91,000 who marched into Soviet captivity, less than 5,000 ever returned home. The rest vanished into the snow, forgotten by history, erased by the horrors of war. For those who remained in Stalingrad, the silence after the battle was unbearable. The city was no longer a battlefield. It was a graveyard. This was the cursed day when Germany lost more than an army. They lost the war. The defeat at Stalingrad marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. No longer could they pretend to be invincible. The loss shattered morale, destroyed trust in Hitler's leadership, and emboldened the Allies. From that moment forward, Germany was fighting a war it could not win. The soldiers who did survive carried their scars for life. Many were haunted by nightmares, plagued by memories of frozen corpses, collapsing buildings, and the sound of endless Soviet artillery. Families back home received no closure, only silence. Strategically, Stalingrad changed everything. It turned the tide of the war in the east, giving the Soviets momentum to push westward, eventually all the way to Berlin. And yet, for the soldiers who fought there, the war never truly ended. Their stories remain buried under rubble, hidden in forgotten letters, whispered only in nightmares. Perhaps the deadliest weapon of all was not the bullet, the tank, or the bomb. It was the silence of those who never returned.